Hey, hey, hey! Welcome back to my channel. Hi, what are you reading? So today we're back for another book review. So this is book 2 in the Crescent City series by Sarah J. Maas, and it is called The House of Sky and Breath. And look at that cover. Look at how beautiful that is. And let me just show you. Inside. Look at this. Like, the artwork is just something else, I have to say. It's so beautiful. Love that. And I did get the hardcover because I will always choose to get the hardcover of books that I really like by authors that I really like. So there's that. All right. Let's read the summary. The deadliest power, the fiercest passion, the cruelest fate. Bryce Quinlan and Hunt Athalar are trying to get back to normal. They may have saved Crescent City, but with so much upheaval in their lives lately, they mostly want a chance to relax. Slow down. Figure out what the future holds. The Asteri have kept their word so far, leaving Bryce and Hunt alone. But with the rebels chipping away at the Asteri's power, the threat the rulers pose is growing. As Bryce, Hunt, and their friends get pulled into the rebels' plans, the choice becomes clear. Stay silent while others are oppressed, or fight for what's right. And they've never been very good at staying silent. So this book has, as you can see, it's extremely thick. It has 805 pages. No, sorry, that is the end of the book. 801 pages that you can actually read. And I don't remember how many chapters, 78, 79 chapters. So quite a few chapters. I will go ahead and confess that I didn't actually read this book. I listened to it on Audible. I do feel a slight disconnect with books when I listen to them completely on Audible versus reading them. So let me know if you have that same feeling. Like, if I'm holding a book and like reading it, I can really get into it. Sometimes I had a hard time getting into the first book when I tried to read it, but, I can more connect with the book versus just listening to it on Audible. Like, listening to it, I think, is very handy for people who are blind, obviously, and can't see, therefore they can't read because the book isn't in Braille, or, you know, people who have a hard time reading, or don't have time or the want to get a bunch of books that they have to keep in their house and store and you know, hold and read. They want to just put headphones on and listen. I think it's a good resource, but for me, I do notice a slight disconnect. So, but there's that. All right, so I have my reading journal here, my handy reading journal. So I did take some notes. I'm not going to include too many spoilers. I don't include spoilers in my book review videos. If you want to see more spoilers or read, like, I don't want to say read the real review, but if you want to read like a more thorough review that goes more in depth with certain things and actually talks about things in the book, go to my website, beautifullyfearless.com, and check out my blog. It's, I think it's like fearlessashley.wordpress.com, something like that. So, you know, if you wanted to read something more about like more specific parts of the book. So this book picks off where the first book left off, obviously. You know, I'm trying to say stuff, but I don't want to give spoilers. We do have the same two characters. We do have, you know, Hunt and Bryce. Continuous evolutions of both of them, by the way, mostly on Bryce's part. I think at the end of the first one, you know, we learned so much about Danica that we didn't know and didn't suspect. And that doesn't stop in this book. Like, there's so much stuff that comes out about Danica that Danica knew, that Danica hid, that Danica put out there that, you know, Bryce didn't know, and she was her best friend. Like, they were like sisters. So it's, you know, it's very interesting to build on that foundation. And Bryce at one point does question her relationship with Danica. She's like, were we even friends? Because all this stuff's coming out that I had no idea about. This really important big stuff that she never told me. And, you know, for whatever reason, Danica did. Maybe we'll find out in the next book or in one of the later books. I don't know. But that is one thing I will say that's continuing. The Asteri are still in this book. Major presence. One new thing is the addition of the rebel forces. So you have the Asteri, which is like the government, and then you have the rebels who are, I don't want to say anti-government, but they're trying to overthrow the government. They're trying to change the government. They basically disagree with how the Asteri are handling things, and they want things to be better for everybody. They want to improve things for everybody. And it's amazing to me how things come out and how it's relatable to real life economics and real life issues. And it's fascinating to me how you can connect those, and you can kind of see like little bits and pieces. It's not like cut and dry, like this is the symbolism of this, like this is, she's using this to symbolize this. It's not that. And I'm not sure that's at all what she meant when she wrote the book. I'm just saying that's how I'm reading it, and how, you know, it can be portrayed, because this one isn't, well, no, this one isn't the newest book. This book came out, when did it come out? I know how to read book covers. 2022. So this came out like a year, like almost 2 years ago. So, well, depending on when it came out in 2022, you know what I'm saying. So it's relevant to the world right now, and that's kind of strange, you know, how that happens. But it's just interesting how authors can pick like little things that are going on in their real lives or in anyone's real life, and they can pick it and take like one little tiny detail, and they can expand and write like a whole book about it. And it really makes you think about your surroundings, about the people who are in charge of things. It makes you think about things that you've been told, like what's a lie, what's the truth, you know, what it really is factual, what have we just been told and we just believed it because we didn't have any evidence otherwise. And not to get too conspiracy theorist on you, I do think there are some conspiracy theories that are true, and it's probably the ones that you least suspect are true that are true. We're not going to really go into that in this video, but it's kind of along those lines. And I think, you know, whether you believe in the conspiracy theories or not, I feel like you can read this book and you can definitely see some connection to certain events in this book and certain characters or certain things in the figureheads in this book to real world things. And it's very interesting to me. Bryce and Hunt's relationship definitely goes to another level in this book. They're still both very, it's like, I want to say they're confused. They're in love, but they're confused. You know what I mean? Like, they like each other, but they're also confused. Like they haven't made any definitive steps forward. And I will say that this whole book was kind of, it was okay, right? I mean, you know, it's okay. It's not as good as the Thorns and Roses series. Let's just put that out there right away. But there's a nice little tie-in at the end of this book to that. I'm trying to think of ways to say it without like giving, because I don't want to give spoilers. Like, I just want to tell you what I think about the book and what I rate the book, and then, you know, you can go read it. And if you want a more in-depth review, I do post that on my blog if you want to read that. It's very interesting how things happen and how they come out, and the timing of when they come out and when certain things happen. I think in our real lives, you know, as far as with the government, like conspiracy theories, and, you know, with, you know, the disease that went around, you know, like 5 years ago, that was, well, 4 to 5 years ago, that was a big wake-up call to a lot of us that, you know, things were going on, and, you know, it caused a lot of people to look into things and kind of discover things. It opened a lot of eyes, whether for the good or for the bad. And again, I'm not going to get into like conspiracy theories and things like that, but it's interesting how government control and overreach is addressed in this book. And it's not fully resolved in this book, so it will be addressed, I hope, in the next book as well. It's just fascinating to me, you know, the lies that come out, the major lies that come out that folks have believed, and it's just like, you know, you want to trust the people in charge, and I feel like sometimes we trust too easily and we don't really look into things, and maybe we should, and maybe things aren't as cut and dry as we think they are. You know, it's a big wake-up call to kind of look at your life and like it's more of like what you believe and what you choose to have go on in your life, and the kind of things that you choose to live for and choose to identify with. And you know, do you want to have a good impact on the world, a bad impact on the world? Do you know, is it better to live in peaceful ignorance, or would you rather break somebody's heart by telling them the truth? You know, I think some things when they come out, obviously, like, you know, if you have a spouse that cheats on you and you find out, that's heartbreaking, right? Whereas when you don't know, you can live in blissful ignorance. You know, is it better to live in that ignorance, or is it better to know the truth? And, you know, I think you'll go, you know, one of two ways. Like, usually there are people on both sides of that coin. And it's quite interesting. The character development is definitely there. A lot of things are explained a little bit further. There are still things that leave questions. Like I said, the end of the book, you do have most of the book is pretty quiet, pretty kind of along the same lines, and then you get towards the middle to the end, and then shit starts hitting the fan. Like, it starts hitting the fan, and things start coming out, and it's just absolutely insane. And it, you know, it's one thing after another, and so like just when you're like, it can't get any more twisted, and then there's a whole nother thing, and it's just like, you know, are you kidding? Like, Sarah J. Maas is so freaking good at writing a story that seems like a tame, normal, everyday story. You know, it's a fantasy story, obviously. It's got angels or archangels, and it's got fae, and it's got weird animals, and it's got all kinds of things like that in like a supernatural world. And then all of a sudden it's like you get hit upside the head, and it's just like, holy cow, what just happened? What did I just read? Like, or listen to, in my case. But I think a good continuation of the first book. A lot of things that happened in the first book are they're continued to address in this book, and some of them get addressed and some of them don't. There are continued relationships. There are deaths in this book. Although I'm trying to think. It's a big book. Okay. But a lot happens, like so much happens. There's a reason why these books are so thick, is that so much happens in them. And I will say that the way that it got left off raises some interesting questions that I don't want to pose in video, but I will be posted over on my blog, about the crossover between this series and the Thorns and Roses series. There is a crossover kind of at the end, and it's very interesting, like how it's done. Like, Sarah Maas she's such a brilliant author. And I don't know if it's her or like, you know, somebody that works with her, you know, like an editor or something that kind of suggests stuff. I think they all kind of work together that way, you know, but it's a fascinating book. And the way it's written is very, very good. It's very easy to read, very easy to understand. The names are not easy to pronounce. I mean, when we listen to it on Audible, obviously we can hear them pronounce it, right? So we know how it's pronounced, or at least how we heard it pronounced. When you're reading it in the book, you have to kind of pronounce it in your head. And when I looked up the character names for this review, compared to like listening to it, I was kind of like, what? Because there's a character named Ethan, and it's not an E-T-H-A-N, it's I-T-H-A-N. And there is, like Rune. I always imagined his name was R-U-N-E, and it's R-U-H-N. There's a lot of characters that are, the spelling is a little different, you know? And so it's a fun read. It's a fun read. If you enjoy fantasy novels, if you enjoyed the first one, you'll probably enjoy the second one. I do have the third one. We'll be reading that one, and then of course doing a review. And then as soon as the fourth one comes out, I will get that one and read it and do a review of that too. But let me know if you have read this book and if you liked it, if you didn't like it. I'm gonna rate this book. Well, over here on my little book review, I gave it 4 out of 5. It's a pretty interesting novel. This one kept me more wrapped up in it than the first novel, although I did get lost several times. And I will say that the times that I got lost were some of the lovey-dovey scenes, and those missed the mark for me. I don't know if it's the way it was written. I don't know if it's because, you know, maybe we left off, like, we listen to it before we go to bed. So we listen to it and then we kind of stop it. We try to like end a chapter, right, before we go to bed, and then pick up like the next night. And I think sometimes I have forgotten what's happened, and then so you go into it, and they could be in the middle of a heated moment, and when you're listening to it, you can get the buildup, right? And so you're feeling it, right? And you're understanding it. But like when you jump right in the middle of it, it's kind of like, whoa, what's, you know, it's really hard to kind of feel the characters' feelings and kind of know where they're coming from when you just jump in the middle of a book. But we're in the middle of a chapter, in the middle of a scene like that. So I'm going to give this book 4 out of 5. I do like it. I don't like it as much as the Thorns and Roses series. If Sarah J. Maas ever watches this, hi, big fan. Please continue that series. Please continue Thorns and Roses. I would greatly, like, I want to read more about those characters. These characters are nice, but they're just not as enrapturing to me as the first series. And I don't know. I think it could have to do with the fact that I read that series first. But I also think you need to read that series first before you read this series because of the tie-over. And if you read this series first, you're not going to understand the tie-over. It's not going to be as intriguing and interesting to you as it is. So let me know if you've read this book, if you liked it. If you didn't like it, let me know all the things down in the comments below. Follow me. Don't forget to go follow me over on the Instagram. Like this video if you like this video. Subscribe if you haven't already. Ring that bell icon to get notified whenever I upload a new video, because you never know what kind of content's going to pop up over here on this channel. I thank you all so much for watching. I love you all very, very much, and I will see you in the next one. Bye! Hey, 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 and welcome back to my channel. Hi. How are you? What are you? Stop it. Hey, hey,